I'm Michael Leib. I'm obviously Andrea's son. I don't know, kind of maybe the reason the On Track actually started when she was jamming schoolwork down my throat when I was, I don't know, 10 years old or so. But anyway, I'm a professional motorcycle rider. Been racing professional for 10 years. And yeah, it's been quite the journey from the amateur all the way through, doing the homeschool thing and trying to race dirt bikes. And ultimately, I mean, chasing our dream, whether that be whatever you guys are doing. And by the way, go-kart fans on there, like, I need some help. I just bought a 125 shifter kart, so gonna need some help in that aspect. But yeah, so got a bunch of stuff to talk to you guys about today. I started a company, after a few years of racing and a lot of that stuff. So I'm not sure if I'm looking at the right screen here. Hold on. So yeah, Tasha, do you want to throw those slides up, or should I just ramble on? Am I looking at the wrong thing? Sorry guys, I'm new. I'm really good at technology in other ways, and other ways I'm really bad.
You're fine.
So yeah, so I started racing when I was, when I was 4. Well, I did my first race when I was 4, and I won that. And, mom and dad obviously knew that, if we were going to continue racing at that time, I was playing, soccer, baseball, hockey, doing all those things at one go. And it just took up a lot of time. And obviously, like many of you, I just got attracted to dirt bikes, and dirt bikes is what I wanted to do. We started racing the amateur national circuit when I was 8, and like all of you have experienced, I'm sure, homeschool and trying to deal with the homework and stuff like that as we were going on. We were getting double the amount of work for, being gone, and it was really hard to learn and chase a dream and trying to go, race dirt bikes and as well, get an education, because education is obviously, chasing a dream and a career is fun, but the kind of not so fun fact of that is, a lot of people don't make a living, long term, chasing a career. Some people do, some people don't. So that was tough. Mom started homeschooling me when we were younger, and she was a substitute teacher, and she started doing a lot of the homeschool stuff, and she ended up making and starting On Track, which ultimately allowed us to travel the country and do a lot of cool things that a lot of kids never got to do. We were doing all the amateur nationals by the time we were 8 years old, and amateur nationals and stuff like that, as far as my career when I was little, was a little tough for me, because I was hurt quite a bit. I was always at a younger age group getting on a bigger bike, and I was a little guy, and I was a little guy getting on a bike that I probably shouldn't have been on at the time. So, a lot of that stuff was difficult, but, I did get the good old, like, in the hospital, like, hey, now you got time for your homeschool, and now you got time for schoolwork stuff. So being like, the mom's son was really cool, except for, like, it was just all about school, which was cool. But at the time I just wanted to play video games and do kid stuff. But yeah, ended up winning Loretta's in 2009. That was like one of my really only championships. I won many others in Florida in 2002, then went on to win World Minis in 2003, and like had just a crazy dry spell. Didn't win anything until I got to Loretta's in 2009. And then I got a really interesting opportunity to go and race the MXGP series. Hadn't raced a pro race here. Well, I did like amateur A stuff. But as you can see here, like this is a photo from Europe. I packed up at 17 and moved straight over to Europe, and that was pretty interesting. Mom actually came over with me. I was in France, and what a culture change at the age of 18. I mean, food, family, being away from everything. At that time, technology like really sucked. So like you can only like Skype, certain times, and it was just like a really, really big wake up call. You like I would go eat there, and it's like I couldn't read the menu, and in France no one speaks English, and super tough. And I'm there trying to race dirt bikes, and that year I had like, I think I did 18 races for that team, and we had like 14 mechanicals, and man, it was difficult. I'd been doing really well on big bikes at that time when I went over there, and then I got there and it was like I was just kind of thrown in the deep end. And being in France and all that stuff, it was a culture shock. It was a massive culture shock. So I ended up getting my best result there that year, at the last round of that deal over in Europe. In 2010, I got a seventh, and then that next year I signed a factory Husky deal. At that time, it was owned by BMW. It wasn't owned by Husky like it is now, and our bikes were horrible. So I learned at a young age that it's not all about money. I had signed that contract. I think I made, a little bit over $100,000 that year, and I took it because of money, and the equipment was horrible. If I can look back, that was probably one of the darkest and brightest times that I can remember that really shaped me and changed me. I was there riding equipment that was, upwards of 8-9 horsepower off of what the factory guys were racing on that year. And it was heartbreaking, right? Because I'm over there, I'm sacrificing, everything of being in a different country by myself. And, I'm not there doing what I want to do. I can't have, the results. And it was so unmotivating. And I learned that, money couldn't buy happiness. I was making good money. And, at that time, I'm 19 years old, making more money than I've ever made in my life. And it was one of the darkest times of my life. And about halfway through that year, I remember, in Europe, they have like town squares, and every weekend we were in different countries. I've been to 35 different countries, and, it's like you have all this time by yourself. And I fell in love with like things like people watching, and I kind of like learned to be by myself in a weird way, and like actually started finding things like that I actually enjoyed. They were really weird. Some of you may think that they're, whatever, that doesn't sound like a fun thing to do, but that's kind of all I had. So the next year I was done with Europe. I didn't want to go back, and I raced West Coast here. And West Coast, I think I started out by missing the main by 1. The next race I got 11th. The next race I got 9th. The next race I got a 7th. And then it was like West Coast break. I got a call to fill in for Zach Osborne and Factory Yamaha. Went over there and had a really, really good weekend in Italy. And I went from 33rd to 3rd, and then second moto, I went at a 27-second lead. And like, it was a really, really big lead. I hadn't been training for outdoors. I remember I pulled the tear off over the finish line, like grips just full of blood. And I was super, super tired, and I didn't really know why, but was what it was. So I remember I ended up finishing 3rd, and I called my dad. I'm like, Dad, like, I got on the podium. I got 2nd overall at GP. Like, I was just over the moon about it. And like, I had a 27-second lead, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And he's like, you just blew a 27-second lead. And I was like, oh man, like, I don't know. That was just a fun deal. So from there, I signed a 2-year Kawasaki deal. I ended up having mono at that race. A couple weeks later, I actually had to take the next 4 or 5 months off. I got really, really sick, and it was just a lot of back and forth flying from Europe. Signed a 2-year Kawasaki deal. They terminated the contract on me because I had mono, even though I got released from it. I was done with Europe. Europe was a very special time in my life. Some of the most difficult things that I've ever experienced. I didn't get out of Europe what I wanted as far as results go and as far as a career. But Europe was what really, in my mind, changed me and set me apart in a way that I'm thankful for today, even though in that time it was something that I wanted to get as far away from as I possibly could. I think in racing, we're all put in a pretty high pressure financial standpoint of like, we've got to do a lot of things in this world, especially to get attraction from, teams and sponsors and trying to get rides that like we don't really want to do all the time. And, I don't know that Europe was exactly that. I did end up getting the contract that I wanted, even though I never got to fulfill it. But Europe was so much more than that for me. And it was really, really cool to, a few years later, look back and be thankful for that. So, I think for people out there that are going through, things that aren't so fun or maybe not getting the recognition, like, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And there's something that this sport teaches that I don't feel that a lot of other things in life will teach. And that's like perseverance and dedication and a work ethic. I mean, we'll get to in a minute, when I started Canvas, my work ethic that I have learned and endured through this, this industry or, other sporting events. I mean, it's something that I think really sets us apart from the rest of the people in this world. I think athletes have a very unique mind and a very high dedication level that when you get into business and when you get into ventures outside of your racing, they're going to seem a lot easier than what other people have done. A lot of people go from school straight into work, and they're at work clocking in and clocking out. And I think we all have a very different mindset. So a couple years later, throughout the next 2 years, I would get, I had multiple top tens. I've had a few sixth place in the West Coast Supercross Series. I've had some good results. This photo here, I'm pretty sure that you guys can see on the screen with the all white gear, was an event that basically jump-started, the next chapter in my life. This year was, I think, 2015, and I went into the season, my dad, my mom, and I, we kind of, were looking at NASCAR, and, gear companies in this industry have done the same thing for 52 years, and no one's given them a reason to do anything different. As far as a privateer, family and I, spending over $100,000 every year to go racing, and gear companies. I remember in 2014, I got paid, I think it was $20,000 from AXO, or 17, it was somewhere in there. And the next year they offered me $1,500. And in my opinion, the gear on the bike and rider is the most visible branding opportunity that we have. And okay, if AXO is going to offer me $1,500, what word do I have to go back on and say, okay, well, I'm going to do this if you're not going to pay me this? They kind of have us by the throat. So we did the all white gear thing. We ended up raising $30,000 before I got hurt in Oakland at round 4. And that injury was the worst injury I've ever had. I've broken a lot of bones. I've had a lot of injuries, and it's been, that photo is like Frankenstein. But, injuries have always been something that I think I've accepted. Obviously, when we're out there doing what we do, we risk our lives and we accept that. This injury was the first time that I think in my mind that it registered that, you can really get hurt doing what you love. I ended up breaking my foot pretty bad. It was talus navicular and tib fib, but the fusion that I had to do was like one of the worst things that I've had to do. I think I didn't walk for 7 months. I didn't ride for almost 14 months, and it was really difficult. But the interesting thing that happened was when I crashed and did the all white gear, it was never my intention to go on and start a gear company. It was never my intention to go on and start a business in the industry. To be honest, it's something that I never wanted to do. And to me, I wanted to do something outside of the industry if I was going to do something business related. That's just where my mind was at the time. So when I had gotten hurt, I'm in the hospital. I'm like, most amount of pain that I've ever been in. I'm pretty over it. And I remember I was looking at my phone, and I saw an email from an Argentina company, Ricky and Nestor, and that's this guy that I'm standing next to here. They had emailed me, and it was like something like, hey, we can make this gear in black and white and blah, blah, blah. And, I remember I forwarded it to my mom, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, Mom, but we'll talk about it later. And I went in for surgery. So a week later, I'm like, hey, what was that email about? And long story short, I ended up starting a company 3 weeks later while I'm on the couch resting and healing up, called Canvas, that made custom gear. And it was through these guys that, they presented me with an idea and an opportunity that I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And it just kind of fell in my lap, and I was like, you know what, maybe this is something interesting, because I had a lot of people talking about the white gear at the time, and people just wanted the all white gear. You know, it's kind of like the progressive lady from the Progressive Auto Insurance Company, Flo or whatnot. So from there, we ended up starting Canvas Gear, or Canvas MX. A year later, Chuck, my partner, and you know, he helped me really develop the website. We've got a 3D designer and all of these things, and now we're able to attract, like, I mean, like Blue Buffalo, you know, making Blue Buffalo gear. At the time, they were a dog food company that was interested in the motocross community, and they had sponsored the team. And you know, it just kind of gone through a very unique opportunity that went from an idea to a business before I had really registered in my mind, like, you know, hey, that's something that I can make money out of. That's something that I could do. You know, I remember starting it, and I remember having all these things to do. And I remember, you know, not having an accountant because I wanted to learn everything and I wanted to do everything. And then I started getting my, like, letters from the IRS that I forgot to fill this form out, or I forgot to check this box, or, you know, nothing bad, but it was just like, oh my God, I can't do all of this. Like, I'm not sleeping at night. So it taught me, you know, to delegate things. It taught me to do and figure out the things that you're really good at and the things that you're not, to find someone to do them. You know, it really kind of taught me a very unique thing that I've also been able to use in other aspects of my life, whether it's raining or racing, whether it's training, whether it's whatever it may be. It's really important, in my opinion, to know what you're good at, and what you're good at, you do the best that you can. What you're not, I see a lot of people struggle by not being able to delegate, not being able to figure out what they're wasting a lot of their time on, when they can simply, you know, have someone or hire someone to help them figure out, you know, how to get things done more efficiently. You know, there's a lot of things that go into running a business. And I think by the time that I was 2 years into Canvas, it was like, oh my God, if I'd known that it was this much effort and this much work, like, I don't know that I would have done it, but it's too late to turn back, kind of thing. You know, I mean, that was kind of, it's a weird thing to think about, but, you know, that's how I felt. It was just a lot. It was a lot going on. And, like, I look back at the days of, you know, when it was wake up and ride and train and then recover and do whatever and then go to bed. It's like, God, I miss those days. I miss those days where it was just about the riding. It was just about the technique. It was just about the gym. It was just about that. And then maybe throw some diet stuff in there. You know, I do miss those days, but I'm also very thankful for, you know, what Canvas has taught me, you know, on and off the track. One of the most interesting things that I think that it really taught me was, you know, the word afraid of failure is something interesting to me, because I look back on racing, and I think that there were certain things that, you know, throughout my career, maybe I'd run from the rainy days at the track and riding in the mud. Maybe it was, you know, certain technique things. Maybe it was, you know, racing every weekend. Maybe it was, you know, going out on the track and, you know, riding with the people, or, you know, that test, or I don't know, whatever it may be. With Canvas, I sucked at everything. I didn't know how to do anything, so I failed all the time. And I learned what didn't work, and then I started really applying how I knew things did work. And I've also noticed that in other parts of my life, as well as racing and other things, that I've really started to accept that, you know, it's like Kobe Bryant. I mean, not just to bring that up because of what happened, but his the whole thing was fail fast and fail forward. Will Smith, these guys really say all these things, and it finally registered for me, I think maybe a year ago. You know, so with you guys in your homework or your go-karting or whatever it is, like, it's okay to fail. It's okay to not be good at something. It's okay to, you know, figure these things out and really find your direction of what does work as opposed to what didn't. So I think that was pretty interesting. I mean, a perfect example of failure. I think at the 3-year mark in Canvas, we had realized that, you know, we were making gear from Argentina and we were shipping it, we were importing it, you know, from Argentina here, and you're paying 33% duties and taxes, and, you're waiting, 3 to 4 weeks for things to come here. We started moving our manufacturing over from Argentina to USA. Gear companies in the motocross community are not made in USA. They're all made in China. And they're made in China because they bulk order and manufacture up to 5,000 pieces of one particular design. Canvas isn't built that way. Canvas is built on, we don't have inventory. Someone makes a custom product, they pay for it, and we make it. Whether that's one jersey or whether that's, 2,000 or 3,000 jerseys like we make for Nitro Circus or Polaris. So we needed something that was really unique in USA. Argentina at the time was one of the only people that was able to do and fulfill what we needed. So we figured out how to find USA manufacturing. Mainly Chuck Carruthers, my partner, really went to work on that and found some really good resources. Everyone here kind of can make a jersey. A jersey is very simple. As far as making a motocross pant, no one really makes a motocross pant in USA. So it's been about a 2.5 year project to make a USA made motocross pant. And God, I can't tell you how many years I've been saying in 2 weeks it's going to be finished, or, it's right around the corner, or it's almost done. It's still not done, but, we're close. I was racing in the pant this year, but it's almost finished. I'm going to say 2 weeks it'll be done, but yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a joke, but Canvas has been awesome. It's taught me a lot of things. It's we're working ourselves into the gaming community with jerseys. We're working ourselves into other bag stuff for baseball teams and other custom products. We've done an amazing amount of really cool projects that I never ever imagined doing. This one, for example, Travis Pastrana, we sponsor him, and for Travis Pastrana to be someone that we sponsor, I mean, that's like a childhood hero. To be doing that. Our first project was Robbie Madison doing the wave surf. We made that DC gear. That was cool. And to be able to, create whatever gear that I want, it's just something cool that I can put, my own touch on. And, it's something that's rewarding and it's fulfilling, to do a ton of photo shoot stuff. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, being both the rider, flying the flagpole and going racing and going training. I've just made a couple notes. I mean, it's like this year I went racing on the fact of like making title sponsorship stuff. Before I get to that, I guess I'll get to like Straight Rhythm. I mean, we make all the gear for Straight Rhythm guys. Like, Jerry Robbins and Pastrana and Catanzaro wanted to reenact Pastrana this previous year's Straight Rhythm. And like 2 weeks before, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm making all this gear for everyone, like this costume gear. Why am I not racing? So I went as Ernesto Fonseca, and like we remade like all the Troy Lee gear to say Mike Leib Designs instead of Troy Lee Designs. And it's just been really fun to make some really cool projects and do something that's like just really off the beaten path and really have a lot of fun with, the business that I've created and, share it with family and other stuff. And as I get a little bit older, it's more about, starting to enjoy the stuff a little bit more and all that. But this year I went racing on the idea of selling title sponsorship stuff. If you back up to 2015, that's really why Canvas actually started. And I was able to take that idea this year and sell it to a title sponsorship stuff, right? So like, for example, I know that it costs me $80,000 to go race West Coast. It'll probably be more like 90 by the time I'm done with it. We were selling title sponsorship stuff at $10,000 to $15,000 a race, and put a massive effort into this year. And I wanted to prove a concept that, you can sell a title sponsorship stuff as a privateer. And I guess I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit. So the slides, if you go to like all the render stuff, I think they're like some of the last ones. A little bit before that, like two more, maybe 37. There's one with like the all teal gear. Yeah, there you go. So we ended up not selling the first 2 rounds, but the idea is to basically show for the first time that, motocross gear and bike graphics can really go hand in hand with, an unlimited amount of design limitation. And I didn't sell the first 2 rounds because we kind of got the program going a little bit too late. So I decided for those to be Rival Link, who's my graphic sponsor, and they help with a lot of design stuff, and do something with the gear and the graphics that's never really been done before, and really be loud with it. So two were really fun. And then we had a sponsorship race in Phoenix, Arizona by Glendale, and that was used with 6D. So 6D was the first title sponsorship of the year. And it showed people coming into this industry with, that's been in this industry forever, that, there's a different marketing opportunity here. And they were able to take this idea and make enough sense of it. We made 6D gear. I can sell the 6D gear back to 6D or their customers for them to also get another ROI. The really interesting thing is like, out of the 3 or 4 different title sponsors that I had, the marketing idea behind each one of them was very different. For 6D, it was more, hey, we can, do the whole biking gear thing, which is very different for a helmet company to do, but we can also sell the gear and get them an ROI, and they can make a big splash, right? So instead of them just having a helmet on a rider, which helmet companies have done for the eternity of this industry, they can now own the bike and the gear for 1 round, spend a little bit of money on it, and get a bigger splash. So that was 6D's marketing strategy. The next one that we did was a CBD company. You can see a few different sets of the 6D stuff, but just different colorways. So the next slide will be Irenic. So Irenic is a buddy of mine that started a CBD company. So they launched their company at the weekend of the Oakland Supercross. So, they were able to be in front of immediately thousands of people. They had easy ups and everything, and product actually on display at our truck and where the bike was. And they got a bunch of media and a bunch of press out of basically launching their company at Oakland via this marketing opportunity that we had kind of been able to create, that a gear company is not going to give any of these companies to do. You've got Thor or Fox or Answer Gear on, you're limitized a lot on how much marketing space that you have. So then we also did one with Vital. I unfortunately didn't get to race in San Diego. That's what this kit here was. But again, Vital industry, media company that's been around forever. They saw a unique opportunity to do something different and unique, to basically market themselves in a way that industry media companies have never done. So again, moral of the story, different opportunities, different strategies, and different sales points for each of these companies that were involved. And I've got some other companies lined up for the last 4 races. Hopefully I can make it to those. I dislocated my shoulder in San Diego and still kind of working out what's going to happen next with that. But that's kind of, the idea. I hope you guys got some questions and stuff like that. But I mean, it's been an interesting road, and I mean, not just because my mom is my mom and I want to pump my mom up, but I think that in school and homeschooling, I was homeschooled by my mom from the time I was in 5th grade until when I graduated. I don't know how much I would have learned in a classroom. I don't know, how much that you would learn as opposed to having more of a custom learning solution, as opposed to just being another person listening, in a room. I think ultimately that, the base foundation that all taught me is, what I was able to kind of mold, and throughout all my other experiences in life, have kind of gotten to me where I am today, and it's super fun, and I've enjoyed every bit of it, and I've got a long future to go. And the last year has been really cool, to see a lot of hard work paying off. But it's not easy. It's a long road, but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully you guys got some questions.
That was great, Michael.
She's being biased.
No, that was great. I think it's really a great story, and I thank you for sharing that. Does anybody have any questions that you want to ask Michael?
Madden, it looks like Madden has a question, and then Anderson will have you answer or ask your question next, okay?
Do you have any question first?
Did you have a question, guys? Go ahead.
What age you decided you wanted to go pro?
I think I wanted to go pro probably by the time I think I always knew I wanted to go race dirt bikes. I won my first race when I was 4, and I think by the time I was 8, and I won my first championship by the time I was 12, like in between 10 and 12, I like really knew that's what I wanted to do.
Cool.
Good question.
You have a question? No.
All right, Anderson, do you want to unmute and you can ask your question?
Sure. So I don't have a webcam, is that fine?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So when exactly, not when, how did that, crash that happened with your foot?
So we were in Oakland, I think it was the second practice of the day, and there was a right-hander. It was like a 90-degree right, and it was a triple into like just a rhythm section, so it was just a regular triple. I hit a soft spot. Oakland's got like a lot of really soft dirt, and I remember the rear end sunk in, and I felt the shock bottom out completely. And by the time that I was over like the second part of the triple, I remember the seat was touching my butt and my shoulders at the same time, and I knew that was really bad. So I jumped through the bars, and it kind of catapulted me forward, and I landed into the fourth jump just on my feet, and I knew right away that I'd shattered my right foot. But yeah, that one wasn't much fun.
Yeah, that sounds really bad.
Yeah, still dealing with that.
Yeah. Ooh, wait, my mom just gave me a good one. Sorry.
Go ahead.
How did you overcome the fear to continue in race motocross?
I think that, as athletes, when we get hurt, it's like, oh my God, I never want to do this again. The pain is, so bad. It's, that's how I personally feel. I've had a lot of injuries, and I think I felt like that at every single one of them. I think I've quit 100 times, but I think ultimately, the dream and the accomplishments and the success and the love of racing helped me overcome a lot of that. It's amazing what the mind will overcome. I mean, the amount of pain and suffering that I went through with not walking for 7 or 8 months and not riding for over a year, it was really, really difficult. But there's a pure love for the sport that I have, and there's a determination level that this industry has taught me that I've been able to overcome that, as long as other things outside of racing as well.
All right, cool.
Thanks, Anderson. Let's see, Anthony had a question, and then we'll come back to you, Madden, okay?
Hello.
How's it going?
I had a question on when you went to homeschool, how did it feel to be not as social as you were in a regular school?
That was definitely something that was a challenge. Not a challenge, but school stuff for me, it's hard for me to remember all the way back to before 5th grade. But I felt like I missed out on maybe some school stuff, like some prom or whatever it is. But ultimately, I mean, think about all the things that we get to do that those kids don't get to do. I'm sure you race yourself or whatever industry that you're part of. You're traveling and you're around a lot of different opportunities that those kids aren't. So it's really easy to look at, I'm not a part of this, deal. I'm not playing Fortnite with my buddies or Call of Duty or whatever it is. But look at all the things that they're not doing that you get to do. You're if you don't mind me asking, what do you race motocross or?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're traveling around the country racing dirt bikes, and and you're getting homeschooled, and like think about all the opportunities that you have that are going to be so much more important for you later down the road than, you know, missing out on certain in classroom stuff or socialized. You're hanging out with buddies, you're seeing the world, you're a lot more socialized than a lot of these kids are. You know, so there's certain parts of myself, just being transparent, that like, yeah, maybe I'm a little bit like socially awkward, like around new people or, you know, whatever, but I'm good with it. I've gotten to do a lot more cool stuff than a lot of those other kids. And yeah, I think it's part of it, but that's how I view that.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, Anthony. Anthony is a new student to On Track, and he's with the family that brings us dinner sometimes in our pit. So thank you so much, Anthony, for joining us tonight.
Madden,
Thank you for sharing your stories.
Oh, sorry. Madden, did you want to ask your question again? And then I have a question from Monica. She doesn't have a mic, so Ms. Colvin has a question to ask as well. Okay, go ahead.
Did you want me to read that, Tasha?
Yeah. Ask them. What was your best race?
My best race probably in Italy, 2012 at the MXGP. That was my only career podium that I've had so far. But that one was rad. That one was really cool, especially because of all the hard stuff that I went through in Europe, and you know, to leave there on that was a really, really cool experience.
This is cool because me and him both race.
Yeah. What happened to your arm, dude?
Fractured it in Dallas.
Oh no. At the Futures deal?
Yep.
Oh, no fun. Let that thing heal up.
Thank you.
Okay, Monica Colvin asked, how do you balance your growing business, training, and racing?
That one's really tough. I mean, this year has been a bit more than I thought I could chew, honestly. You know, dealing with Canvas. Luckily, my partner, Chuck Carruthers, he's really, really helped take on a lot more than he kind of signed up for. And I really couldn't do the racing stuff if it wasn't for what he was putting in as far as the Canvas side goes. On top of that, getting the sponsorship stuff and the graphics for the gear and the bike done for each weekend, making sure the gear and the graphics are done on time, getting all the parts and everything organized. I mean, obviously mom and dad helping out a lot. That stuff's been way more than I thought it would be. Getting through the training side has been difficult. There's been a certain part of the training stuff that has been difficult for me to do to 100%. But I've done everything that I could do and absolutely tried every time that I could. But I've also gotten Lyme disease, so I've been doing blood treatment 3 times a week on top of it, which that's really what's interfered with some of my training stuff. We got diagnosed with that back in, I think, November. That was something I really haven't talked too much on, but the treatment side of that has been heavy. And then, you know, obviously you've got, you know, I trade currencies and home life and all the other stuff. So balance, there hasn't been any balance. It's just been trying to keep up as much as I possibly could. I think after San Diego, I was pretty disconnected for about a week. I had enough, but it's hard. But I think I did the best that I could do with it up until now. But I've also, again, learned to delegate things that, you know, I'm not able to do, find ways to get other things done. So it's been a really hard thing to balance.
That's a really good question, Monica. Thank you for that.
Anyone else have any other questions for Michael?
Any good go-kart questions? Who's the go-kart guy?
Anderson. Yeah, Anderson races. Who else races go-karts with us today? Michael might have some questions for you.
I guess this says, are you going to take up racing go-karts?
So after racing, I'm a really, really big Formula One fan. So I think the closest that I can get to Formula One would be go-karting, understand how to drive and like really figure that out, and then go race like the Formula Mazda and the Formula 3 stuff. I'll probably try and at least to some degree go do that after racing is over, which I'm a little excited about.
We've got Oscar and Anderson both, and Anderson said that what you're doing is really fun, I guess. Oscar says, who's your favorite F1 driver?
I'm a Hamilton fan. I think his perseverance level is pretty amazing. He's a very in-tuned athlete. I think he's very different, which a lot of people criticize, but I think ultimately his mind and strength in the car is superior.
Good questions.
Maverick says he has some awesome canvas gear.
Heck yeah. Got some good new stuff coming, so stay tuned. If I can ever find time to get it done.
And we love our on-track team shirts that Canvas created for us. And this year we had so many requests because at Loretta's, where we do our high school graduation, the graduates, or just Jeff got one, Tasha, right? Oh, our team, well, right. Our crew was walking around Loretta's with these on, and now our graduates want them, and people are actually wanting to order them. So they are really cool. We love them.
Very cool. Yeah, finding time to make a lot of new products. Like working on jackets and bags and other stuff now, as well as the pant. But finding different ways to make a lot of that stuff has definitely been interesting. Making the actual templates is far different than I ever imagined, but it's fun. These are all 3D renders, which is also really cool that we figured out. Product shoots and stuff like that were something that was very time consuming. So we found out that we could 3D render all of our products, and they look pretty realistic. This one, I think, needed some work as far as the picture. We don't do too many renders of that product, but like our other stuff is really, really hard to tell that it's real or fake. But again, now I can just send, a design somewhere instead of setting up a studio or doing an entire photo shoot based on one design. So that's another way to delegate and save a lot of time.
I really like that idea. We're about to put some things on our website for school swag, so I might have to talk to you and learn something about that from my son.
Anyone else?
Joseph's one of our teachers that joined us. I like his comment. He said, you might have to make us some school uniforms. And there is a question from JC, one of our teachers, about, I'm sorry. I don't have my glasses on. That's awful. Michelle, about do you do graphic design? So you obviously had to learn graphic design through this process.
Yeah, I had to learn Illustrator. Again, especially before Canvas started, Facebook, MySpace, that was the extent of my computer knowledge. Learning Illustrator, learning Photoshop, learning InDesign, that took a lot of work. I do all of, the artwork and stuff like that. I don't do the actual design stuff. I'm not a designer. I'm not Picasso. I'm not very visual with that. So I can copy anything though. I can remake anything. I can tweak things and do different elements. But luckily, like, our website has a 3D designer, so like customers on there can actually go and create their own artwork. And we have like pre-designed stuff up there that we can play with. So yeah, learning Illustrator and all that stuff was just another part of a lot of the stuff that I didn't really think about and consider when starting Canvas. But Illustrator was a tough one.
Well, that's really cool, Michael. I heard the words determination, perseverance, being in Italy and having in Italy and France and England and Holland for a bit, and learning how to figure out survival and appreciating and, pushing through those tough times and being able to take those lessons and bring that on into your future is really an inspirational story. And seeing you get excited about the next phase of bringing fun into racing with starting, with karting is also cool, because, it's proven if you can have some fun doing what you're doing, which is what we try and bring to On Track School, you'll be successful. So best of luck with that. I'm excited to see what you're going to do next.
We'll see. It's probably going to involve 4 wheels though.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, cool. Anyone else got anything?
I think they're just all in awe.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you guys for letting me share my story a little bit. Hopefully you guys got something out of it you guys can apply to your own situation, and wish you guys all luck, and hopefully school's going well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.